So here we are on the cusp of the next generation, but we're seeing some patches on old PS4 games. What's all this about, and should we be concerned? Well, the first thing is, let's take a look at the info we have. We know that God of War and The Last of Us Remastered all received patches in the past 7 to 10 days. We also know that both of these are included in the PS Plus collection that is on the PS5 for launch, a selection of curated games over the past 7 years of the PS4, which will offer new PlayStation owners the chance to see what they have missed. They could also offer up enhancements over the PS4 or even the Pro versions, and we know that God of War still uses the favor performance mode to deliver 60 FPS, but will this be at 1080 or 4K? Before all that, a quick word from this video's sponsor. Boost Gaming is an online store that enables you to buy games, DLC and top-up cards for your platform of choice. In this new digital age, many of you want to buy those and have the ease and simplicity of just downloading straight to your hard drive with no physical disc shenanigans. And that's what this offers, a simple, easy and efficient method that's all above board, knowing that every penny you spend goes to the teams and companies that make the stuff you enjoy. On top of this, they'll have ongoing sales discounts, which will just enhance the value. Be sure to check them out in the link below and see if anything catches your eye. In the here and now, this new patch seems to offer zero change to the Pro model. We see the same options, graphics and loading over the earlier patch. So far, so boring. But this may be a patch that secretly adds engine options to the PS5 back compat mode to improve its use of the hardware, rather than a brand new full game. You can check out my software dev videos to learn more on this. So comparing the older patch with the newer one, we can see a whopping 70 meg saving there, 46.23 gigabytes versus 46.16. Hardly earth-shattering, standard, libraries tidy up, that kind of element from a rebuild, but like I say, it may contain goodies for the PS5. So moving over to another title, The Last of Us Remastered. What did this offer, and was it any better? Well, I was blown away, as obviously people see it on Twitter earlier this week. It's a huge improvement on loading, it seems, transforming a Bloodborne-like loading delay from saves to a far more pleasant experience. Here on the base PS4 with an SSD, we see loading times to the same save almost cut in half, which is an incredible boost. So how and why is this happening? Well, let's check out the file size. Well, it's the same, so check there. The download is very small, 370 megabytes, so no new repacked textures using Oodle from Rad Game Tools has been delivered here, simply because it's not possible for various reasons I'm not going to go into as to why you can't do this on the console. It has to be done at the developer's end and then pushed down to you, which means you'd have to download all of the relevant textures that were being replaced with better compressed ones, and that clearly isn't the case. It's a standard patch here, 370 megabytes, and that's backed up by the fact that the actual install is now 370 megabytes bigger.
Okay.
Then get out, quick. Shit.
Follow me, you chicken shit!
So what is Oodle texture, and what am I talking about in terms of compression? This is the new BC texture compression technology built into the PS5 hardware that is over 100% better in certain circumstances than the zlib compression of the PS4. Sony have bought licenses for all games to use it on PS5 as it's built into the hardware. It's a necessity as that decompression cracking unit, and it also has been delivered here on the PS4. But unlike the new console though, it will not have dedicated hardware to decompress on the fly. So this means that it should technically be better compressed, but it should take longer to decompress potentially than the zlib option, which means it's likely a good candidate to move in GPU compute and put it as a compute job running on the GCN GPU on the PS4 and decompress that as it loads into the level. This seems the most likely solution. The reason I'm saying this is something I covered right back when the Road to PS5 video came out and my subsequent videos since about the compression, but Mark Cerny puts it far more elegantly than me.
By the way, in terms of performance, that custom decompressor equates to 9 of our Zen 2 cores. That's what it would take to decompress the Kraken stream with a conventional CPU.
So is this an option they've now added for all decompression, even if they haven't changed the technology, and therefore zlib is no longer being decompressed and loaded into RAM by the CPU threads alone? Is it being done by the GPU? It's a potential. I'm not saying it's true and I'm not saying it's correct, but it's a potential. But after looking at this and a few of the games I'll cover now, what I suspect has happened here is there's been a legacy bug in this entire game for all of this time. Now, trust me, bugs happen and live all the time in any piece of software that's ever been delivered. I doubt there's anything that exists in software world that's ever been delivered bug-free. And sometimes you have to accept that. That's the 80-20 rule when you're doing software development. So when you push things out, you just accept that certain things can't be fixed, or it's not worth the effort to fix them for the concentration of where they sit and how much they impact the game or the software at large. So this is probably an issue that the team knew about months ago, and because they're revisiting these games to make them pushed out on the PS5 and therefore likely have been given some dedicated time to do this, re-authenticate them again, certify them for the PS5, they probably saw an opportunity to fix some bugs. And we're probably going to see few bugs, few issues resolved, in addition to delivering them in the best state for the PS5. And that means this particular bug has most likely solved an issue in the software that's always been there in terms of a bad loop, a hash map, whatever it might be, that has solved the speed at which it decompresses and loads that data from the system into RAM. Remember, there's much more going on in terms of loading a level rather than just textures, but it is the lion's share of the market. And actually, we can look at that and look at what's really going on another game, Days Gone. Now, Days Gone is also in the collection, but it hasn't received a patch recently. The last patch, the one I'm testing here, was actually delivered back in January of this year, or February, it might be January, February. Now, this was a huge patch, massive patch in terms of what it did to the system. It almost halved the space it takes for the game install to sit on. That's a huge increase in size and space. And it's nearly the lion's share of the download. The download is 30 gigabytes. Now, what's going on there? Well, again, these are suspicions. I'm not saying this is fact, but it seems likely that this was around the time they started investing in the Kraken and obviously the Oodle texture solutions. And this is probably one of the biggest games that benefits because it's an open world. It's got a vast amount of textures, and textures are the lion's share of any game install base. This benefited from it. So what's happened is it's not only delivered the same game in a smaller footprint, now only 30 gig overall, of which 30 gigabytes of those are likely, give or take, the entire texture map solution. So that's the entire footprint that takes. But on top of that, it also means that you're now having to decompress this much better compressed technology into RAM using the hardware the PS4 has. Zlib was not as well compressed, but it did decompress pretty quickly. And we can see that in my test. 26% slower loading, but 36% smaller footprint. That's a significant improvement. And it is coming from much better texture compression, most likely. And this is borne out again by the fact that it takes longer to load and decompress compared to the older version. So this is really signifying the fact that most likely it's not using GPU, it's using CPU, and therefore they're decompressing it on there, or they're using a combination thereof. But 36% is not to be sniffed at, and it's probably the start. They will most likely improve these algorithms and these compression techniques, because that's how it works, and actually squeeze this down even smaller. And the reason the real-time cinematic into gameplay doesn't really have a difference is it's not really decompressing anything there. It's already in RAM. It's just setting up the game, loading up the animations, the characters, the AI to get ready for the next game loop. It was one of the areas I highlighted on my analysis of the game when I covered it last year, that it's a shame that it keeps going fades to black. This doesn't fix that, but it clearly fixes the space issue. Now, this is a salient point for the next generation of consoles, because space is going to be an issue. And it's one of the reasons why everyone's complained about the 825 gigabyte hard drive in the PS5. But this is a great example. If they can improve their compression techniques, and by and large this looks like a real world example that we can see and we can use as a basis of our comparison between the current space and the new space. There's two reasons why this is a benefit and why it will work to reduce the footprint of games on the hard drive. One, I covered a lot of this in my SSD video, so go back and check that out, but the high level view is you store less data repetitively on the disk to mitigate the issues of mechanical drives, and then you use better compression to fit the same data in a smaller footprint, or twice the amount of data in the same footprint. And Days Gone is a shining candidate of how much they can compress the data. And in all likelihood, they'll improve this compression. Now, I will be doing a full video on compression, showing the examples, how it works, and all that kind of good stuff, which is coming very soon as part of my ongoing PS5 and next generation analysis, which is just about to kick off. So stay tuned to the channel for more on that. But fundamentally, this means that games next generation will have much richer texture quality, better visuals, higher resolutions, better throughput, and will potentially take half the footprint of what you see now. Now, in all likelihood, if you're generating 4K assets and sticking them on the hard drive for the game, then you're probably going to be around the same footprint as you are now, but with next generation titles. So they're probably going to sit somewhere around what we expect. Maybe 40 gig of the average size of a game, which is still better than what we see on a lot of PS4 games, Call of Duty. But aside those, we are going to see much better use of the hard drive and less usage of the same data multiplied across the drive, just wasting space. So these patches that are coming are improving performance, are improving loading times, and are improving the compression techniques used, i.e. from zlib to oodle. Now this needs to be confirmed by Sony. Don't take what I'm saying as confirmed, but the actual figures we're seeing on screen here do show that better compression is being used. Faster loading is an option on the same hardware, and improvements to those APIs that came with version 8 of the operating system, which will also be running on the PS5, means that there's now better options for the hardware to use, and that means we see much better performance across the board. What is also commendable is they are pushing this out to PS4 titles, both future ones and, as we can see here, historical ones. So you could see improvements to games take up half the space and still look as good and play as good, and that is an exceptional use of hardware and backs up my other video earlier about how important APIs are. There's no hardware change here, just a software one. So I suspect this is the start of a bunch of updates that are going to come on a lot of titles for the PS4. Some will give you benefits straight on the PS4 hardware itself, and some will offer up those benefits just to the brand new PS5 hardware, which I already have if you didn't know, and that was mine you saw earlier in the video. Sony sent me early review code, and I'll be covering it very soon in the upcoming days, weeks and months. So be sure to check out the channel and subscribe so you don't miss all that first-hand information. Now, in putting this video together and uploading it, there was a patch that came out to Days Gone on the very same moment it was uploading. So I've just literally added this part at the end. So once downloaded and tested it, it's a slightly smaller download, but it makes no difference to the game at all. It's still the same footprint, 38.7 on the hard drive, and the loading times are about the same. They're longer than they were. They're slightly longer here than last time by a couple of seconds, but that's margin of error stuff. So not a huge change, but it does prove what I just said earlier, which was actually 2 days ago now, when these are patches coming, getting ready for PS5 and using the hardware a little better to improve the quality, performance, and maybe even those frame rates. Anyway, I will let you know as soon as I'm allowed, but there's much more we can talk about on the PS5. You can check this channel out for lots of information upcoming on that, and hopefully this was a good insight into what's coming, both for PS4 players, PS4 Pro players, and of course those brand spanking new PS5 players. Anyway, please, if you like what I do, please like, subscribe and share, because I do this independently and it's a part-time gig. So I hope it is fun and enjoyable, but there's lots more fun to come. I'll catch you very soon on the next one.